just in general, life isn't always fair. I love working with men that are in the STEM fields, engineering, medicine, high tech, that kind of stuff. You have to be really conscious about what you're doing, why you're doing that, and have your time management skills. For example, I was the captain of the football team, right? And I was in a rock band, so I was not so bad. And if everyone else is rejecting you, then the common denominator is you. You move forward, but at the same time, I'm going to be kicking your ass if you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing.
Welcome of the Willpower podcast. All right. So you used to be an engineer. I'm currently an engineer. I'm curious what led you to actually take the leap from being a full-time, I'm assuming a full-time paid, having a very dependable career to creating your own business as a dating coach.
Yeah, dude, it's been quite a journey. So I graduated from engineering school about 11 years ago. And well, long story short is I sucked with women back in the day. I was getting rejected left and right. And I didn't even have the confidence to go up and talk to girls, right? Whether it was at a party, a bar, or just randomly on the street, a park, shopping malls, anywhere. Yeah, and even like the options that I had were the girls that were in quote unquote my social circle, and I tried with a couple, but I just didn't know how to do it. Right. I was very introverted. I think I still am kind of like a nerd in a way, and obviously very logically, rationally thinking, as any other engineer. And up to that point, I was already consuming content and watching videos about, yeah, just social skills and mindset and all that kind of stuff. But I was still not getting anywhere in terms of results with girls. So one of my friends introduced me to this dating coach who turned out to be my first dating coach. I have invested like over 30 to 40 grand in mentors and programs and courses and all this. And it has been quite a journey, right? So I started to get good with girls, and just talking to them, having cool conversations, and not just flat, boring, oh, hey, how are you? Where are you from? That kind of stuff, but actually exciting interactions with them. And my friends were noticing that they were also the engineering stereotype that I was of being very introverted and not being sure how to create those connections with girls. So they were asking me for, dude, how are you doing that? Like, Emmy, how are you doing that actually? So I was telling them very nonchalantly, like, well, you just have to do X, Y, and Z, and do this, do that. And they started to get better with girls. Well, one of them actually got a girlfriend, and he still thanks me to this day. And that's when it came up the idea of, you know what, maybe I can start. I can start with this. It was very at the beginning. It was enjoyable for me. Now it's very fulfilling to just help guys go through the same and overcome the same obstacles that I went through. So yeah, that's how I started. I got, of course, a couple engineering jobs after I graduated, but I started my coaching business about 5 years ago and went full time about 3 years ago when I quit my last job.
Awesome. So you kind of found your way into it. It was just like you were able to help out people around you, and then it became like, oh, this could actually be a business. I could sell
Exactly.
this.
Exactly. So I was watching, yeah, the thing that I went through, then I helped my friends go through that, and then I just expanded my reach.
Yeah. What's been like the most difficult part about working for yourself in the way that you do?
Oh, I would say being a good boss for myself and a good employee for myself, because from my experience working in another company, I really like that job, because I do like engineering, I do like programming, I do like all that comes with it. That's why I chose that path at the beginning. But it was in a way, quote unquote, simpler because there was someone else that could help you if things were not working the way that you want it, right? Or you could always reach out for help and go to your boss and be like, hey, like, what's the next step? You know, having a plan and all of that. And just making that transition into first self-employed and then actually building my business is, well, there's no one else you can reach out to, right? And it's you, and you have to be accountable for yourself, and you have to be responsible for the results, right, that are getting. And I think that's a great mindset, not only for that I learned for my business, but just in life in general, just being 100% accountable and responsible for what you get in life, you know. And yeah, that was definitely one of the most challenging parts of building up from scratch my business, which is why I also invested in business and sales and marketing mentorships that helped me with client acquisition and just building that up. But definitely, I mean, no one's going to do it for you. At the end of the day, it's you, and you have to be responsible for yourself, and that's one of the hardest lessons that I've learned.
Yeah, what's speaking to me is like, yeah, that accountability for sure of like I'm 100% responsible for what happens here. And then there's the like authority too, which is like, sometimes at work you can just kind of like throw something in a Slack channel and then like, okay, I'll just wait for someone else to see that and help me out. But here you are the number one authority. You're the one who has to make the like every decision, every difficult decision comes down to you.
Yeah, and
And
it's
that
a
can
double-edged
be,
sword.
yeah, for sure.
It's a
It's
double-edged sword, but because you own your time, quote unquote, but at the same time, that could be either an advantage or that could be a disadvantage, right? It's you have to be really conscious about what you're doing, why you're doing that, and have your time management skills like top tier.
Yeah, there's something about like in the business world, the payoffs are much more, there's a lot more inequality in terms of payoffs. Like if you work at a big company, everyone basically gets paid relatively similar, like no matter how much work you do. Like some people will get raises and they'll maybe make up to like, twice as much as someone else. But in the business world, like of entrepreneurs, it's so much different. It's like if you put in low effort, you're going to just get nothing, absolutely nothing. Versus if you're the top performer, you could make so much more, like hundreds of times more than someone. So yeah, it's like the payoffs are much bigger, but you don't get that smoothing over where if you just want to coast by, like that's not the place for you. You got to go work. You got to go work at a company.
Yeah, and just in general, like, life isn't always fair. You know, life isn't always fair. So sometimes you're putting in a lot of work and a lot of effort into a project or into something. Again, it doesn't have to be a business. It could be any other thing, right? Building yourself up, overcoming trauma, or working on your muscle mass, for example, dropping body weight, whatever it is. And then you realize that all that effort was went to waste because you were not doing the right thing. Working hard is not enough. You have to also work smart, you know, and making sure that you're putting sure one foot in front of the other, but making sure that you're putting one foot in front of the other in the right direction. Otherwise, you're going to get further away from your goal.
Yeah. Yeah. Being set on the right. That's another thing that being at a company kind of grants you is they give you the direction immediately. There's a really good quote. I forget who it was someone who was on Modern Wisdom, the Chris Williamson's podcast. And he said something like everyone should spend 20 minutes at the beginning of the day just deciding on what you're going to do that day. And
Mm.
if you feel like you don't have the 20 minutes, you should take an hour, which is basically to say, if you feel too busy to like think about your overall direction of the day, you're missing something and you need to take a bigger step back.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. And sure, you can do trial and error with baking cookies, for example, right? But when you're working on something as important as, I don't know, building a business or again, developing the lifestyle that you want, working on your social skills, right? To meet women and your future partner, the one that you're going to share your life with. I mean, you can't really waste a lot of time and opportunities there because the effects are way more important than, again, cooking your dinner, for example.
yeah, how did you know that this was what you wanted to like do full time? This was the main thing you wanted to be doing.
At the beginning, I didn't know completely, you know, but I've always had this mindset of Well, not always, but ever since I started my business, it's actually my second attempt at being an entrepreneur. The first one was just real quick, actually. I designed this prototype with a friend. It was a toy that helped kids with autism and cerebral palsy to learn basic vocabulary, engineering, nerdy stuff.
Hmm.
But
Sounds cool.
yeah, yeah, it didn't work though, unfortunately. But how did I know essentially is I've never had this idea of rainbows and eternal happiness when it comes to life. Sure, you should be pursuing something that fulfills you, but I think that's different to just plain pleasure. Life. So I was like, all right, I like this enough to make a living out of it. And that's going to mean that at some point it's going to be frustrating. It's going to be stressful, right? Because that happens with any job. So, and then I started to get good results, right? I think those are essential to keep you motivated in whatever endeavor you start. I start seeing results, at least small in the beginning. So that's when I started to, again, get clients. Those clients started to get good results in terms of developing that confidence, those social skills, going out on dates with girls, getting girlfriends. So that got the ball rolling, right? And that's where I found that what I'm doing is number one, something that fulfills me. Number two, something that people are willing to invest in. And number three, they are fulfilled with the work, right, that they have invested in. So yeah, so far it's been a pretty fun journey, obviously with ups and downs like anything. But so far the trend has been upward, and yeah, I'm just really enjoying not only the profit part of it, which is necessary in every business, but also for example, the relationships that I build and with clients, networking opportunities. Yeah, that's how I found that this is my thing.
Yeah, I was looking at your Instagram and I saw a post about just of someone like sending a message to, I'm guessing some group of guys that you have. What is that like being in a supportive group of men for you as the coach?
At the beginning, I didn't realize that I was building that, I was creating that. And I had been in other mastermind groups, really motivating groups full of individuals with great drive and knowledge and wisdom and just people that I looked up to and other mentorship programs that I was part of as a client. And then, yeah, I started to enroll these clients. And we have this Telegram group where I think a good brotherhood and camaraderie has been built between the members. And at some point, this was like last year, that someone texted in the group, I just want to like really put out, and I'm quoting, I just want to really put out my appreciation and the fact that I'm feeling very grateful with Emiliano because of all this transformation. And then everyone was chipping in, and everyone was sharing those things. And I was like, wow, shit, I really built something here. And I'm not trying to be arrogant with it or anything. It's just that it felt very fulfilling to know that I'm actually creating an impact, at least in these individuals, right? Which are awesome guys. All of them have all the credit for the results they're getting, right? Because they are the ones implementing and executing, and they're the ones taking action, and they're the ones that are taking that step forward, right? And yeah, I'm just incredibly grateful to be among these individuals that I can call clients, and most of them friends, actually.
Awesome. Okay, let's talk about girls. I would love to hear, like you touched on it briefly, but I would love to hear about like where were you before and what was the entire journey of figuring out your dating life and getting your shit together? What was that like?
Yeah. So I think it all started in high school. I was definitely not part of the cool kids, but for example, I was the captain of the football team, right? And I was in a rock band. So I was not so bad in terms of like what we call status and back in high school among social circles.
Mhm.
But I never had any luck with girls. Like I was watching my friends date and have cool, fun experiences with girls and all that. And while there were some girls who I think were into me, I just wasn't able do anything about it. I didn't know how to, essentially. So I was always nervous and self-conscious of what people might think or what others or those girls might think if I made a move or what would happen if they rejected me, that kind of stuff. And yeah, I had a crush back in the day with my best friend, my female best friend, and she rejected me. And that's when I kind of quote unquote hit rock bottom in terms of my dating life. I was depressed, I was frustrated, I was resentful. I actually started to become kind of resentful with women in general. And I was like, yeah, it's everyone's fault except mine. And it's a rabbit hole you really don't want to go into as a man, because essentially you're pointing fingers instead of figuring out what you could have done better. And again, this I think this applies to anything in life. So I think I got out just in time, by surrounding myself with the right people and consuming the right type of content, reading the right type of books in terms of, what, there's actually work that I can do to become a better man, become a better person, and therefore become more attractive for the opposite sex. And it's kind of like what I heard this quote about from Jordan Peterson say, like, if everyone else is rejecting you, then the common denominator is you, right? So at that point, yeah, I kind of got out just in time to realize, hey, maybe it is me. And not that there was something intrinsically wrong with me, because I don't think there was. It's just the fact that there's room for improvement, especially in terms of developing charisma and social skills. But I had always been very logical, very rational, very clear thinking kind of guy. And women are not like that. And that's the first lesson, right? Women tend to be more emotionally driven in their decisions, and they don't think very much the same as we do, as men do, especially engineers. So I realized that there was so much improvement, and that's how it all started, man. And I started to learn how to be more charismatic and witty banter and just flirt and tease and challenge and just have this fun, enjoyable, exciting conversations with girls that turn into genuine and natural connections and relationships.
I wanted to touch on that. There's this like thing where people talk about self-acceptance as like you're perfect the way you are, and that's the way I at least perceive it when people talk about it. But I think there's a deeper way of acceptance that is, I'm accepting exactly where I'm at in this moment. I'm not pretending I'm something I'm not. I'm not hiding from it anymore. Like a lot of the times when we avoid things, or we, like for me, if I was afraid of talking to a girl, it's because I was afraid of like looking at myself and afraid of, what her rejecting me would change about the way I see myself. And self-acceptance is just a 100% acceptance of where I'm at this moment right now. Accepting it, not pretending I'm something else or trying to, trick myself into believing that, but then recognizing where I can go from here. Like it's not an end point. It's not saying I'm perfect where I'm at. It's just saying this is where I'm at. I understand it completely. Let's move forward from here. Okay, so you developed like charisma, confidence. Did it just come from like reps, or what was the? Tell me about that.
Yeah. So, well, just really quick talking about that thing that you just mentioned.
Hmm.
I think there's a sweet point, right, that you have to find in a balance. Because if you're way too hard on yourself, then you're not really helping yourself, right? And you're just gonna fall deeper into that rabbit hole of, oh, I'm not worth it, and no one will ever like me, that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
But also, you don't want to go to the other extreme, like you said, which is I'm perfect and it's everyone's fault except mine. So yeah, I think finding that sweet spot, that balance in between of I'm grateful for all the things that I have gone through because they've built me into this person, but at the same time, I have the drive to keep improving so that I can achieve the goals that I have set for myself.
Yeah, an actionable step. If you know Robert Glover, the No More Mr. Nice Guy, he says like releasing shame is a big piece of that, because
It,
when you have shame, you think that there's something like intrinsically wrong with you, and it's really hard to imagine yourself becoming something more, or like just interfacing with the world differently, if you think that there is something intrinsically wrong with you. And it's really hard to get close with people, be intimate with women, because you're afraid they're going to see you. So releasing shame, which just means going to a safe place, like, a men's group, having a group of people that are 100% there for you, and just sharing things that, are difficult to share, things that you might think change who you are or somehow tarnish who you are. Getting those out and then seeing that other people will tend to just accept it. That's a powerful way to actually move on from that stuff.
Yeah, 100%. So coming back to the confidence, right, and the social skills and how they came to I came to develop them. At the beginning, I was watching a lot of YouTube videos, especially. There were these big guys with big YouTube channels
Mm-hmm.
that showed how to pick up girls and that kind of stuff. So I was like, all right. First, I realized that it was possible, because I didn't know there was all of that world of, oh shit, you can actually learn this. You can actually learn how to talk to girls. And after that, yeah, I put a couple things into practice, but I think that's the issue when it comes to social media and content out there is that there's so much, man. There's so much information. There's so many books. There's so many videos. There's so many pages and channels that you don't know where to start. And if you try a bunch of things at the same time, you're going to get overwhelmed, right? So there definitely has to be a structure and a step by step. So at some point, I was like, all right, this is not working. Sure, I got like a few good interactions, but they were kind of out of luck, to be honest. So yes, you definitely have to put into practice because you can't just be a content consumer, right? A content junkie. And there has to be execution, there has to be implementation, but also I just wanted to get really good at it. I just wanted to be not get occasional results, but actually predictable and know that I could handle any social situation in my life. So I was like, all right, I guess it's about time to start looking for something more. And that's when my friend introduced me to my first dating coach. I was super scared, man. I was super nervous to invest in something like that because it was kind of a leap of faith for me. After that, the rest of the programs and coaches and mentors that I met in, it was super easy, because I knew that those things work, right? One-on-one personal feedback from someone that has walked the walk and has gotten where you want to be definitely works. So, but yeah, at the beginning, I think it was a combination of both me executing and personal experience and getting those reference experiences, but at the same time, implementing and learning from different perspectives and personal coaching and mentorship so that I could develop my own style, so to speak.
Yeah, dude, there's a lot of content junkies out there, 100%. And I used to be the exact same way, where it's like, okay, let me read another book, let me watch a video, let me just do something that makes me feel like I'm like working on myself, even though it's just an avoidance of the scary thing, which is actually doing it. I used to host an approach group, which was just like a weekly thing. We would go out to a park here in Austin and then practice approaching. And there would be a lot of times where new people would come and like they start kind of telling me how things work. And then like when it comes down to it, they're terrified to actually go and approach. And it's like, okay, so you've watched all the videos, you've read all the stuff, but like it's an interesting thing, but they can't do the actual thing. So there's certainly a line there. There's also like, I think you were alluding to the problem of like just action, like just rep after rep after rep and like not having the direction or the guidance. That can also be a problem. I would say that's not as many people's problem though.
Yeah, you would be surprised, man, because yeah, there's the guys that on paper looks good, and they've watched all the videos and they have memorized everything. But when it comes to actually putting it into practice, it's a complete different thing, right? And then there's the other extreme as well, which you don't want to be in, which is rep after rep after rep. Again, most of those guys that are into like developing social skills and personal development, and actually any man wanting to level up in life in general has personal and professional goals, right? And maybe a high performing job. I had one back when I was an engineer. So it didn't make sense to me to just waste time, right? To approach 100 girls just to get rejected 100 times. And that's not progress. That's just hitting the same wall over and over again without knowing what's wrong. So there definitely has to be an extent of awareness to analyze what you're doing, why you're doing that, is it working, doubling down on what is working and changing what isn't. And sometimes it takes someone else that is watching from a third perspective to tell you what that is, because sometimes we get that narrowed vision of the things that are going on that we can't really see the mistakes that we're making. So yeah, again, it's a balance and it's a combination of, yes, putting it into practice, putting the reps in. It's just like going to the gym, right? You're not going to build muscle or drop fat if you're just going to gym once a week, right, and half-assing your workout. You have to go, you have to be consistent, but you have to be leveling up, right, in the right direction, not so far that it's overwhelming. But if you've never talked to a girl, then your goal shouldn't be, oh, I'm going to get an instant date right here and now, but not so small or not so short-sighted that it keeps you in your comfort zone.
Right. Gonna push it a little bit every time. Yeah.
Right.
So I'm curious if you're comfortable telling me, because I had this kind of thing that happened where I started dating a girl exclusively, and I was still hosting that meetup group I told you about. And I felt weird because I was telling guys about this thing, but then I also wasn't like in the trenches myself. Like I couldn't, before that, it was like I was a proof point. I was like, guys, we're gonna go do this thing. And then I would go and do like approach, a group of 5 girls, and then they could see that and be like, okay, we can all do this now. Then I had a girlfriend, so I wasn't talking to girls. So I'm curious, are you still in the trenches yourself, or like what is that like right now?
I love that. I just started an exclusive relationship about a month ago with this girl. Okay. And so far, I've had 3 girlfriends during my period as a dating coach. All amazing girls, not one complaint from any of them. And one thing that I do screen before getting into a relationship is, are they going to support me, right, in my business, in my job? Right? How open are they to that? When I started coaching, I was afraid that a lot of people were going to judge me. And they're like, oh,
Yeah.
you're teaching guys manipulation and that kind of stuff. But I actually got the exact opposite response from most people, especially girls. Right. Whenever I met a girl and I told her about what I did, they were like, that's amazing. Like, I wish more guys were able to approach girls and because sure, a lot of people use dating apps, but I've seen also that most people, guys and girls, would prefer to meet people in person. So obviously the right way, and that's for later. But yeah, the relationship that I am, amazing girl, beautiful girl, and I just love the fact that she's super supportive. And I told her, hey, listen, this is my job, right? I'm helping guys go through the same obstacles that I went through. So, and this is what's going to be the thing that will bring food to the table, when we progress in this relationship. And my boundaries are, these are my expectations, these are my boundaries. All right, I'm going to keep talking to girls. I'm going to still be approaching girls, but I'm not going to be pursuing anything sexual or romantic with any of them. Right. But I'm still going to have to get the reps in, right? In terms of not for myself, but sure, to keep that sharpness, but also because my clients' results depend on that. And she was like, yeah, I mean, as long as, again, you're not crossing that line, then I'm completely in. And yeah, I think that's something that every guy, whether you're a dating coach or not, has to really establish assertively in his relationship, which is boundaries, which is expectations. And those are 2 very different things.
Right, right. It's like I'm not going to neuter myself to be in this relationship, but I am going to make the higher level decision that like I am committed to you. But it's not because I can't go talk to other women. And it's, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I was going to say that something spurred in me. There was one girl I went on a few dates with, and I told her about, I used to have this like dating podcast, and then I would help guys with this approach stuff. And she kept peppering in throughout like that as if I was practicing on her. Like, oh, you're just
Mhm.
practicing stuff. And I could not get past that. Like she didn't drop it. And I literally was not. I was just being on dates, enjoying the time. But she had this fear that I was practicing the entire time and that she was an experiment. I don't know. Have you
I've
ever had
gotten
that?
that.
You have?
I've gotten that before. Yes. Yes. Not many times, but definitely has happened a few times. And it's funny because it could be, I mean, it's normal, right, for them. And it's understandable that they think that way. You know, when I tell them what I do, and then they're like, oh, so I'm just an experiment for you. You know, it's understandable that they can react that way. I mean, at the end of the day, they are kind of like protecting themselves, which is normal. But at the same time, what I tell them is, well, obviously, at first, I frame it in a fun, playful way, you know, and just to don't make it so serious that the energy of the interactions just goes downward. But sure, eventually, I mean, if they're really concerned about it, maybe they're just joking, right? But if they're actually genuinely concerned about it, then I have an open talk with them and I tell them the truth, which is, well, this has been part of my journey, right? This is part of me becoming the man that I am today, right? And I have actually become a naturally charismatic, confident guy. So it's not that I'm consciously thinking, oh, I'm pushing these buttons and I'm saying these lines, you know, because that's not the goal either. But the goal, again, with my program is to help guys become more charismatic with better social skills, but in a natural way, not in a robotic, I'm pushing buttons kind of way.
Right.
So that's what I tell them. Hey, like this is why I have to come. And I'm not trying to make you do something that you don't want to. I'm not like, again, experimenting with you. I actually enjoy what we're having right now, which I genuinely do. So yeah, it definitely has happened to me, but most of them understand, right? And if they don't, then it probably means that there's some like bad experiences or some traumas that they have unsolved. Okay, not trying to bash on anyone, right? We all have those problems, but maybe then that's not a girl that you want to be with.
Right. It takes a certain amount of confidence for a woman to know that like a guy she is seeing is out there talking to other women and is capable of being with other women. And especially like that can be intimidating and it requires a lot of confidence for a woman to like continue seeing that guy and then also trusting that he will commit if that's where things go.
Confidence, maturity, a lot of self work. So, which is my type of girl. You know, I don't
Mhm.
want insecure girls that are toxic, manipulative, and dramatic. So, in a way, it's kind of a filter.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think the biggest experiment, I don't know, you might relate to this. The biggest experiment is on yourself. Like it's, oh, how do I like what kills my confidence? How do I feel more confident? How do I feel more like myself? How can I be comfortable around women? It's like it's all these things that you're noticing about yourself, and then it just kind of comes out in your expression, and that naturally leads to you being more charismatic and better with women. All right. I mean, you mentioned this moment where you were rejected by your best friend. Did you feel at that point like it was hopeless? Or like what was going through your mind?
100%, man. It was, yeah, I hit rock bottom in terms of how I felt and my sense of self worth and my self esteem and my ego was protecting me by blaming it on her and blaming it on everybody else except myself. But yeah, I mean, I had a huge crush on her. I mean, sure, we were talking about when I was a kid, right? It was in high school, but it kept on dwelling for a couple more years. And I think that's an important thing. I just kind of swept it under the rug instead of addressing it. And dude, when I actually started this self improvement journey and started to heal all those past traumas that I went through, that specific moment came up and I just broke down, man. I just broke down again because turns out I never actually faced it. I actually never healed from it. So I think that's an important step in terms of becoming a better and more attractive man as well. And yeah, in that moment, it was heartbreaking. It just crushed me. And it started this downward spiral of going down the rabbit hole of thinking that I should go my own way. And this movement that is now talked about men going their own way, which I don't really like because it's just a coping mechanism. And sure, you should be focusing yourself, you should be working on yourself, but at the same time, thinking that all women are the same, that's completely untrue, right? And it's kind of the same like the other side says as well. Like there's women that say, oh, man is not worth it. Like they're trash and all that shit. And which is untrue. It was just that the experiences that they've had with guys that they have picked, those are trash. There's trash on there's trash on both sides. So it's important. And I came to that realization at a good time where I found out that I could have done better, that it was not her fault, right? I was blaming it on her. And then I realized that it wasn't her fault. And yeah, I just started wishing her all the best and understood that that chapter was closed. And heartbreak and rejection are parts of life. And again, whether in your dating and love life, whether it's business, whether it's your professional life, personal life. So you just have to carry on, man. Like as a man, you have to bear that burden and make the most healing that you can out of it and get back out of it.
So what is your coaching process like? So you get a new client and how do you like start them out? Do you kind of get a feel for where they're currently at or what's the process?
Right. So at the beginning, I try to have at the beginning I have a call with them to like someone that is interested in getting into my program to figure out first if I can help them because there's actually guys that I just can't. You know, maybe they have a different problem
Hmm.
and that's not in my area of expertise. And number two, that I want to work with them, okay? Because I've come across guys that I just don't resonate with them, you know, and even if they're gonna pay me the money, then I still don't want to have that, you know, I don't want to have that kind of energy in the group, you know,
Yep.
with the rest of the guys.
Yeah,
And
I've seen both types, like the, super black pilled people where it's just a negative energy that you don't want. And then there's also
exactly,
the people with like this guy has something deeper going on that he like, yeah, I know what you're talking about. That's not your problem to solve. He has to go figure that out somewhere else for
exactly.
sure.
Maybe like deeper therapy, right?
Hmm.
Psychological therapy or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, once I figure out that we're a good fit, that we're compatible, okay, and then he gets enrolled in the program, we design a very personalized strategy because there are some patterns that you notice and that you know how to solve, but at the same time, everyone is their own world. Everyone has their own obstacles, very particular ones and very particular goals, right? So we just make a plan based on where they are right now, where they're trying to get, and what they're trying to overcome. Maybe it's anxiety, social anxiety. Maybe it's getting friend zone. I don't know how to spark those emotions, have fun conversations with us. Maybe it is I'm not finding my type of girl, right? And we make a plan and we do check-ins, we do follow-ups because that accountability and that follow-up is essential to make that progress. I tell them, hey man, like you're in, like I'm gonna show you the program is your map. Okay. I am your compass, and you have to be checking them both to keep moving forward. But at the same time, I'm gonna be kicking your ass if you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, right? Like I'm not your dad. You're not in school, right? Where you're gonna get everything handled, right? So I have to kick you in the ass when you're not doing what you're supposed to. But at the same time, I can lead you to the fountain, but you're the one that has to drink it. Okay. So that's why I'm also looking for guys that are driven and that are willing to put in the work. Okay. Doesn't mean that this is going to become their life because that's what I tell them. If you make this your whole life, then that's not good either. Right. You have personal, professional goals. All right. And that's why we're here to be the most efficient possible in terms of achieving your dating goals. But yeah, those weekly check-ins, and I do have a backbone structure. I do have a video course, which is the backbone structure of the program, so I can gradually be learning that mindset and those skills to be leveling up to the next level and then the next level and then the next level, right? So I found that that was has gotten them results. At the beginning, I was doing more in person, you know, like boot camps sort of stuff. But I realized that this online approach with the program and myself as uh, someone that they can reach out to whenever and have those check-ins yields the best results. Sure, because it's more long term, rather than just a week
Mhm.
boot camp kind of thing.
Yeah, those I've never done like a boot camp or like a weekend dating thing, but I have heard that the way people usually walk away is like they're super pumped. They're like, everything's fixed. I'm a new man. And then it kind of like slowly just you go back to the way that things were. So I definitely think like the more extended period things where guys can learn like, okay, this is the way I can actually work this into my life. And like you said, not make it my entire life, but just fit it in where it fits.
Exactly.
What is advice that only you can give?
I love that. I love working with men that are in the STEM fields, engineering, medicine, high tech, that kind of stuff, because their way of thinking is very similar to mine, right? So the way I used to see the world was very structured, right? And how things work. So the way that I work with my clients and my program, I was able to break it down into an actual step by step that makes sense, to learn the fundamentals. But it's actually like breaking down a machine and seeing it from the inside and seeing why those components are there and what they do. So that's what they're getting from me that I'm not getting from anyone else, which is you can call it an engineering formula
Mhm.
of approaching dating, while still sure becoming more understanding female psychology and becoming that charismatic guy and have those enjoyable interactions and conversations with girls, but really understanding it from a science and engineering point of view.
Yeah. Yeah, when I was figuring my own shit out, I had to do like I set standards for myself, which was like 3 approaches a day. There's a point where I had like a point system of like if you say any word, you get this many points. You say, and I would like keep track of myself. And that was because like I was trying to define this like crazy emotional abstract world into like a way that motivated me and that I could really understand. So I completely understand that.
Yeah, and there's guys with other approaches, right? That I'm sure that they work and everything, but this has become my style also in my interactions with girls. And I've seen that mostly men working in STEM fields, science, technology, engineering, math, are the ones that resonate the most with this. And some of them, that haven't gotten results in other dating programs because they were too holistic for them. Again, nothing wrong with that if that works for some people, but they have gotten results with me because of that different approach.
And what does this approach actually look like?
Well, the program that I have, the modules, for example, in the program are stacked one after the other, right? And you can't be going all the way, like you can't be learning differential equations without starting with algebra, right? So that's kind of a good metaphor to how I built my program in terms of, all right, there's no point in me helping you figure out how to, for example, go in for the kiss, right? Or have more intimacy with a girl if we haven't gone through the fundamentals, right? Because you're just putting a facade and you're just portraying someone that you're not. So we have to build yourself up, right, from the point where you are right now, all the way to that guy that has 10 out of 10 confidence, 10 out of 10 social skills, charisma, that can handle absolutely any social situation.
Right. Okay, so the STEM approach is somewhat of like a building up piece by piece. Cool. Yeah, classroom type of thing. What is something you are currently struggling with?
And my life in general,
Mhm. Anything?
putting me into a lot of introspection here. I love that. I would say since again I started this relationship with my girl, building up like for a while I've wanted to build a family, to do all that kind of stuff, get married, have kids, that's my end goal. So we're at a point, me and my girl, where we are building that. We're not married just yet. It's not going to happen just yet, but the fact that we have that in sight in the future, it's new terrain for me. People always ask me, sometimes there's girls or there's guys that, oh, you're a dating coach, so listen, I have this relationship with a girl, and sure, I have a good notion about that, but my area of expertise is everything that happens before that, and how to build that interest, how to build that attraction, how to build that genuine connection, right? But I'm not a relationship coach, right? And I think that's a challenge that I'm really looking forward to take on, and that I'm looking forward to experiment and to experience, which is that relationship, those that love, that trust that comes with goals that we have set for each other, and how to handle the challenges that come to it, right? Because in life, I've seen, and I'm pretty sure that you have too as well, challenges don't end. You just level up the quality of the problems that you're getting. And yeah, I'm just looking forward to moving together, and how to handle those, for example, disagreements that are definitely going to come along the way, and how we're going to overcome that. And yeah, building that marriage, that family, having kids. So it's terrifying in a way, but at the same time, I'm 100% ready to face those.
What's your favorite thing about her?
That she understands the roles. I mean, it's going to sound so cliche, but I do love everything about her. But one of the things that I really really love about her is that she understands the roles, and that motivates me so much, and that motivates me to keep putting in the work, to show up every morning, because I'm going to be the one that's going to be protecting, providing for the family, and she has her role and in that team. But that's the thing. She sees that as a team, right? She sees me as a team, and we see each other as a team. And whenever, for example, problems come up, then it's her and me against the problem. It's not her against me.
Yeah.
She's very smart. She's very mature. She's very feminine, and she has a lot of drive, and that motivates me to be better and to improve in every area of my life as well.
That team mentality is huge because as soon as you feel like you're against your partner, like it things go downhill from there. When have you failed in the past? And let's maybe if there's a different one, because we talked about like the rejection and all that. So something else.
Where have I failed in the past? Oh man, chronologically or alphabetically, because there has been so many, man.
What's one that
And
you like really learned from?
all right, so when I was finishing university, I developed anxiety disorder and post-traumatic stress disorder. So there were some kind of grim, dark years, even a couple of years, where I just was going through that. It was just being paralyzed whenever my heart rate went up. And it all stemmed from this event where I thought I was going to die at the hospital. And I just seek comfort and sought comfort because I didn't want to face it. I thought it was just, let's just avoid as much risk as possible, and let's just stay in the comfort zone. And yeah, it was a nightmare whenever I was going through those panic attacks, anxiety attacks episodes. And I tried a bunch of things, but I think that has been one of my biggest failures and one of my biggest victories at the same time, to just go through that process, let myself fall into that process where I thought there was no exit, and then just starting to put myself gradually in the eyes of fear, and just coming out stronger out of it. But it also came from a sense of perfectionism. I used to be very perfectionist, so everything has had to be perfect in anything, every area of my life. And I was seeing failure as something that I should stay away from as far as possible. When in reality, that's your biggest teacher. So just the fact that I let myself fall into that rabbit hole of anxiety, depression, and thinking that it will last forever, it was one of the darkest places that I've been in, and one of the biggest lessons that I've learned from.
Yeah, man. I'm glad you made it out. Okay, on the other side of that, what does your dream life look like?
I do this exercise yearly where I'm setting my goals for the next 5 to 10 years and the place where I want to be. And the last update to that is being married with my dream girl, right? Having kids, just building that legacy that right now have the shape of a family, as well as continue with my business and helping guys make those dreams come true as well, where they are enjoying dating and not suffering or dreading, talking to girls.
That's beautiful, man. Emiliano Lopez. Emiliano, where can people find out more about you?
Yeah, mainly I'm on Instagram at Attractive Lifestyle Mentoring. And yeah, that's where I build my content. So that's where people can find me.
Awesome. Thanks for coming on, man. I look forward to see, where you go with everything and keep coaching, keep getting guys to get out there more.
Thanks so much for having me. And I really enjoyed this conversation.
All right, bye, everybody.